Good evening. Welcome to week 7 of MPAI 760 here at Georgetown Applied Intelligence Program. Just want to take again a couple of minutes to go over my observations on the paper as well as preview this upcoming week. So almost done with the course, and I think for a couple of you guys, almost done with the semester as well, or done with the semester, but almost done with the program as well. So just midterm feedback. Everyone who submitted it, on time has gotten their papers back. So I want to just give kind of my overall thoughts. I think everyone did pretty well. I made my comments. Based on what I see I teach in the first class. I think people's writings were actually pretty decently. Just some observations that I saw overall. Passive voice, always a problem. If you took my class the first semester, I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but it's something that is important to try and eliminate from your writing. And I think people don't know what passive voice is. I'm actually, people think they know, but they don't. So to spare you guys from pulling this or pointing people out, I'll just say passive voice is simple. The first sentence there is passive. The ball was kicked by the boy. And I don't mean to sound like your 10th grade English class, but this is the direct object. This is the verb. This is the subject. In a properly constructed sentence, should go subject, verb, direct object. Always try and, even if you have to label subject, verb, direct object like you're in, 10th grade English, do that just to eliminate passive voice. And then you can determine, okay, do I really need to make a sentence passive? And the reason I say this, again, one sentence, okay, I understand the meaning of that sentence, but if I see over and over and over passively constructed sentences, it's very hard to understand the meaning of your paragraph. And again, having read through 9 of these and 20 papers in my previous class, I see that over and over again. Overall narrative. Have a thesis and bring up your overall issues. And again, and a couple of people did this for the 4 waves. Don't just give me, all right, you chose a group and that's great, and then you talked about the group a little bit, but connect it to the overall themes of that wave. Connect it to other groups or compare and contrast between each wave. Tell me, how they use tactics, how they use their media strategy. Were they effective? Give me that overall narrative. Don't just tell me, okay, in first wave we saw the anarchist and they did blah 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 blah, and then in second wave we saw the FLN and they did blah 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 blah. Give me an overarching theme and connect those disparate groups and disparate organizations. Contrast. I love contrast. Contrast is a great way to get your point across, and you can use that certainly in the first waves, as I mentioned earlier. You can say the second wave, the FLN did this, and they were successful. Contrast this with the Irgun, which did this, this, and this, but they were not successful. Contrast is a great way to make your points jump out in writing and in oral briefing as well. Just like if you were selling something, if you were selling an iPhone, you wouldn't just say an iPhone does this, does this, does this. You would say an iPhone is 10 times faster than the Droid and has 20 times the battery life than the Google phone, and is this much clearer picture than the previous iPhone. Contrast it with something. That's how people's minds work. So that's a key point. And again, some of you did do that. Some of you did that effectively. You contrasted Al-Qaeda and ISIS. You contrasted ISIS with the FLN or previous groups. Great point, again, contrasting the Obama administration with the Bush administration, with the Trump administration. That really makes your paper jump out. So some of you did that. Others of you, again, if you want to really get your points across, contrast is a great way to go. And then one thing I just want to bring up, again, the 4 waves. Some of you did do this, the media strategy, and I alluded to that just a second ago. Each one of those waves took advantage of the technology of the time. The first wave took advantage of daily publications. That was the first time daily newspapers came out. The second wave took advantage of teletype pictures being transmitted, particularly the anti-colonial wave. And then as we got to the later parts, television started to come out. The third wave certainly took out of color television and the 24-hour news cycle. And then the fourth wave obviously took advantage of the internet, and then, as we're seeing now, social media and those types of facilities. So draw out how terrorist organizations use media strategy, and I can tell you, successful terrorist groups use media well. Unsuccessful ones do not. That is the variable for success, not the cause, not even the brutality. There's a lot of brutal organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, that have survived 30, 40 years. That's a myth that brutality leads to terrorist groups' demise. What leads to it is their inability or their ability to use media strategy savvy. So that's a key point. Please take that theme off from this class as well as going forward as well. And then advocacy versus analysis. Sorry, that last bullet there. The language that you use, and I wrote that on some of your papers, if you look like you're a booster for the Obama administration versus the Bush administration, you kind of lose your point. You've undermined your narrative. Let the data, whether the criteria you use in less attacks or less money spent on terrorism or more effective money spent on terrorism or less mass casualty attacks, let those criteria speak for themselves in your analysis. And you can say, under the Trump administration, this is the criteria, or these were the numbers. Under the Bush administration, these were the numbers. But let your argument speak the story. Try not to come into the advocacy. And I talked about what language you should use, and I mentioned that in many of your papers. So those are the overall. Again, I thought the paper was good. And if there's issues, please, as I said on most of when I comment on your papers, please let me know. So we can square it away for the rest of the class. Week 7. Okay, so week 7 will probably be known as controversy week. I love controversy. Well, I don't say I love controversy, but it's the issues that divide us going forward. It's the issues that politicians, like a certain person who's in the White House right now, like to use to divide us and to expound the terrorism threat for political reasons. I'll let you decide. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I definitely don't want you to agree with me just for the sake of agreeing with me. But I want you to kind of think through some of these issues as we go forward. And I think the John Oliver pieces, please watch them. I'm hesitant to use, because again, he's not an academic, he's a comedian, and take it with that grain of salt that he's trying to be funny, and he certainly has a political point of view. But I honestly believe that those are the best 15-minute segments on those controversial issues out there. And if you disagree with him, and there's a lot of things you can disagree with him, bring that out in your discussion points. So again, controversies, if you're going to go down these, whether you agree or disagree, just some of my thoughts. So drones, leadership targeting. Is there something better? My own thoughts, again, I don't see much. Let me back up a bit. I look at drones like mowing the lawn, right? It's a cheap way that you eventually have to just target to make sure that a group is not getting to the level of that it could be an existential threat to the United States. So you have to just occasionally just mow the lawn. And I know that's a horrible way to put it sometimes if you're on the receiving end of a drone strike. But I think it's a cheap, effective way. We're not trying to change policies. We're not trying to change countries. We're not going to change Pakistan's viewpoints of the United States or their policy towards the Taliban. It's just a low-level way to do it without invading countries. But again, I'll let you decide. And I think that me and John Oliver there have a little bit of a different opinion on that. But I'll let you decide whether, again, the cost benefits are worth it. And so one thing I just want to add, it's not if or and or everything like that. It's cost benefit. Each one of these has a cost. Does the benefit exceed it? Snowden domestic spying. And again, and I don't mean that it gets a little tawdry in the John Oliver piece, but you use humor to bring out your points pretty well. And there's a lot of myths brought out based on the Snowden documents and the media coverage of the Snowden documents. I think the John Oliver piece actually does a pretty good summary of what is actually in those documents. So what I want to just say is, again, personal opinion, again, taking it for my worth, and you don't have to agree with me. I think the apparatus that we've set up, the NSA and all the surveillance that we've done, it robs the adversary of their ability to freely communicate. They freely use Gmail and Facebook and everything like to plan and fundraise and do all those things. So we might not be catching guys or finding out, on a voice intercept that 9/11 has happened tomorrow, but it certainly robs them from their ability to freely use it. And I want to give this example. Plan your child's birthday party without the accoutrements of modern society, without setting up a Facebook invite group, without ordering pizza online through your app, without ordering your gifts through Amazon, without being able to call your friends and family over a phone line. Try and organize your kid's birthday party and see how successful it is. Now, again, try and be a terrorist group that tries to organize all those things without those modern technologies we take for granted. So if you're going to tell me that we're wasting NSA or NSA is a waste of money or anything like that, you got to address that issue somehow. And then enhanced interrogation. So we're going to talk about the ticking time bomb. That's in the Dershowitz article that's been assigned for this week. Is that it's the ticking time bomb is someone has intelligence relating to a bomb that's about to explode and kill how many people you want. Is that a realistic scenario? Sometimes, if they kidnap your child, you definitely would want to resort to whatever you can to find that child. So that's the one issue talk about, or one of the issues talk about enhanced interrogation. And then the second, for those of you who took the MPAI 600 with me, false confessions. Under duress, people give all sorts of bad information. You saw that in the show, the PBS Frontline documentary, The Confessions, that I signed for the MPAI 600 class. You saw that in the Iraq WMD, where certain people under torture made all sorts of claims. So under enhanced interrogation, that is that very real possibility. So you have to address that somehow if you're for using some of those methods. So with that being said, I look forward to your points in week 7, and if there's questions or issues, please let me know.